Unit 1. Confirming information. Lesson 1. Just call me Mary. My name is Stan and will take about 11 to 14 minutes. I would first like to confirm some information with you.
Sure.
First, could you tell me your full name, nice and slowly?
My name is Li Wei, but you can just call me by my English name, Mary.
Thanks, Mary. And may I know where you're from?
I'm from the beautiful city of Guilin.
Great. And could you show me your identification, please?
Sure. Here you are.
Lesson 2. Could I have your identification? Well, first let me introduce myself. My name's Kevin. I'm just going to confirm a few pieces of information with you. So may I first know your English name?
My name is Zhang Li. I'm sorry, I have no English name.
Not to worry. But what would you like me to call you?
My friends all call me Xiao Teng, so you can call me that too if you'd like.
Great. Now can I ask you where you're from?
I'm from Wuhan, which is the capital of Hubei province.
Thanks. And finally, could I have your identification, please?
Yes, here you are.
Unit 2. What I do. Lesson 3. The marketing major. Okay, I'd like to start by asking you a few questions about yourself.
Sure.
What are you currently doing? Are you a worker or a student?
I'm a student at Harbin University. The university is quite big and popular in China.
Right. And how long have you been studying for?
I'm a third-year student. Next year I will graduate with my bachelor's degree.
And what is your major?
I major in marketing. I hope one day to be a sales manager.
Okay. Do you like your major?
Yes, it's quite difficult and I have to do a lot of work, but it's quite interesting and I think it will be useful one day.
What do you usually do each day?
Each day I go to classes in the morning and early afternoon. After classes, I like meeting friends and doing different things. At night, I usually do homework in my dormitory.
Right. So would you like to continue studying marketing?
Yes, I have applied to study at the University of Sydney. I want to do my MBA there. Hopefully, I can graduate quickly and come back to China.
Thanks. And now if I could ask you a few questions about... Lesson 4. My typical day.
Describe a typical day for you. You should say, where you usually spend most of the day. What you must do each day. How you feel about your typical day. Okay now. This is a card that contains a topic, and I would like you to speak for 1 to 2 minutes on the subject on the card. You can have 1 minute to prepare. Here is a pen and paper, and you can make notes if you wish. You may start preparing now.
Thank you.
Your time is up. Remember, you have from 1 to 2 minutes to speak. And don't worry if I stop you from going over.
Okay, well, most of the day I spend at work. I work at a big company in Beijing and I've been working there for almost a year now. It's a bit far from my home, so I have to get up early. Usually I get up at around 6 a.m. I get to the office around 9, and I guess the first thing I do is switch on my computer. I usually just do some normal office work in the morning. Most of the time I'm just sitting in front of a computer. In the afternoon, sometimes I go to meetings or make some phone calls. I usually get home around 6. Sometimes I do overtime, but not often. When I get home, I have dinner, and then do a bit of English study. Sometimes I watch TV if there's a good show, but lately I've been getting on the internet a lot. I don't really like this lifestyle because I think it's boring. Also, I don't think this kind of work suits me. I hope I will have a more exciting life overseas. Lesson 5. Life is better for university students.
Okay, you've been telling me about a typical day, and now I'd like to ask you a few general questions related to this topic. First, is life better for university students compared to middle school students?
I think so. In middle school, you're under a lot of stress. You have to pass examinations, so you must study hard. You don't have as much freedom as you do in university. Also, you study what is required. You have no choice what to take. In university, you can make more decisions.
Okay, and what about life as a worker and as a student?
I think there are advantages and disadvantages. If you study, you have more free time. You have more time to make friends and do things together. But you also have no money. If you're a worker, you can buy more things and live in better housing.
Do you think life is getting better for most Chinese?
I think for most Chinese it is getting better. We have better jobs, better housing, and there are improvements in many different areas. We have more technology. But technology also makes life more competitive. Many people feel under pressure.
What is a happy life, according to most Chinese?
I think it means you're not worried or afraid. I think it means you're happy with your job and your family. I think it also means you feel good about yourself and you have confidence in the future.
You talked about your goals in education. What do you think of the education system in China?
I think it has its strengths and weaknesses. It does the best job it can. China has a big population. I think it gives many people a good basic education, and it helps us to do well in many areas like engineering and computers. The weakness is that it needs to change in certain areas. It should get new equipment, and teachers should be better trained.
Can teachers teach children how to have a better life?
I think teachers can try to tell students not to think only about money. They can help children to feel good about themselves, and they can help students to be braver and more responsible. If they pay attention to these issues, then students won't just think only about themselves. Unit 3. Hometown and Weather. Lesson 6. My hometown is quite large. Let's talk about your hometown. What kind of place is it?
My hometown is a large industrial city, and it is in Guangdong province, in the southwest of China. Perhaps you have heard of it. It's called Guangzhou.
Are there any interesting places to see there?
Oh, yes. Even though Guangzhou is very modern, it has some interesting temples and parks. There is one called the Temple of Six Banyan Trees, and it was built about 1,500 years ago.
What kind of surrounding landscape does it have?
Well, Guangzhou is a coastal city at the edge of a sea inlet. It's also surrounded by a river called the Pearl River.
What kinds of activities can you do there?
Well, there are lots of parks to visit. You can go to many different pubs and restaurants, and if you come in April or October, you can go to the trade fair.
What do most people in Guangzhou do for a living? I mean, what are the major industries?
Guangzhou has every kind of industry. It is very close to Hong Kong, so a lot of the industries involve trade and retail. It is also a finance area.
Do you think the economy there is growing?
Yes, Guangzhou has been growing a lot. There are lots of job opportunities and many new buildings being built every year.
Lesson 7. My hometown is beautiful. Describe your hometown. You should say where it is and how long you've lived there. What a person can visit there. How you feel about your hometown. Okay, now, this is a card that contains a topic, and I would like you to speak for 1 to 2 minutes on the subject on the card. You can have 1 minute to prepare. Here is a pen and paper, and you can make notes if you wish. You may start preparing now.
Thank you.
Your time is up. Remember, you have from 1 to 2 minutes to speak, and don't worry if I stop you from going over.
My hometown is Guiyang. It is the capital of Guizhou province in the southeast of China. I have lived there all my life. It has a mild climate and it is quite humid. The city is a bit like a village, even though it has a lot of people. It's a mixture of a village and a city. There are not that many famous places, but there are a lot of nice parks if you walk around. There are also lots of old buildings. Qianling Park is a nice park. It has a mountain, and at the top is the Hongfu Monastery. It was built during the Ming Dynasty. There are also lots of places to shop and eat if you just walk around. You can get very good hot pot there. I think Guiyang is a very quiet and clean place. It has a good climate, and I think the people there are very warm and hospitable. It doesn't have all the problems of a big city. There are no traffic jams or heavy pollution. On the other hand, it is difficult to make a high salary, so many people choose to live in other places.
Thanks. Are your families still there?
No, they are now in Shanghai, but I don't spend much time there, so I do not call it my hometown.
Do you still have lots of friends in Guiyang?
Yes, but a lot of them have also moved away.
Lesson 8. What makes a good place? Okay, you've been telling me about your hometown, and now I'd like to ask you a few general topics related to this issue. How would you compare your hometown to other cities?
I think it has its strengths and weaknesses. It is friendly and easy to get around. People will always give you a hand with things. You don't need to feel such stress. Traffic is good and the air is not too bad. The big problem is that you can't really find such a great job there. Also, the environment for learning English is not very good.
What do you think makes a place good? What are the most important things?
I think the most important thing is good planning. If the planning is good, then there will be good traffic and lots of parks and trees. I also think the city must have a good economy with lots of jobs. If the city is pretty, but you cannot earn money, then you must move away. I think that the police must be very energetic. A place should be safe so that people don't worry about things.
Are larger cities better than smaller cities? What are the advantages and disadvantages of smaller cities and big cities?
I think it depends on your age. If you are younger, a small town is too boring because you have no places to have fun. There are not enough good bars and places to get together. If you are young, I think a large city is better because you have more choices. You can do what you want. Also, a city has better things to buy, like clothing and computers.
What do you think will be the biggest problem that cities will have in the future?
Well, I would like to say 2 problems. The first is the environment. It has been improving, but not enough. We need to be strict. The air and weather in many cities need to improve. I'm confident we can improve it. The second problem is traffic. Some cities are good, but others are not very good. Some cities have very bad traffic jams. You could wait a long time.
How do you think it can be solved?
I think we need to limit the number of cars. We should make it more expensive to buy one. I think we should also improve our public transportation. If there were more buses and subway lines, fewer people would drive cars. We should also move factories that cause pollution. They can move outside the city.
Thank you. And that's the end of the interview. Unit 4. Future. Lesson 9. I want to study in New Zealand.
Okay, now I wonder if you can tell me about your plans. Are you planning to stay overseas somewhere?
Yes, I plan to go to New Zealand. I want to study there.
Right. And could you tell me why you chose New Zealand? What are the advantages?
New Zealand has so much space. It also has good study opportunities. The education system is quite good, and the visa is a bit easier to get than other places.
Okay, and what do you plan to do there the moment you arrive?
Well, I have an uncle who is already living there, so I will telephone him. I can use his flat for the first 3 months. My uncle also has some work to give me.
What will you do when you graduate?
That's difficult to say. I think I will either stay on and get my master's or come back to China. I haven't really decided. It depends on whether I like New Zealand. Lesson 10. I think England is beautiful. Tell me about your future plan. You should say, where you plan to stay, what you plan to do, what worries or concerns you have. Okay now, this is a card that contains a topic, and I would like you to speak for 1 to 2 minutes on the subject on the card. You can have 1 minute to prepare. Here is a pen and paper, and you can make notes if you wish. You may start preparing now.
Thank you.
Your time is up. Remember, you have from 1 to 2 minutes to speak, and don't worry if I stop you from going over.
I plan to study overseas. I want to study in England. I have applied to study at the University of Nottingham. I'm not sure yet what I will study. I'll just take the foundation programme first. After that, I will probably major in nursing. I chose England because it has the highest quality of education. England itself is also a very rich country for its history and culture. I think that England is beautiful. The landscape is very pretty and the countryside is very romantic. But it is more expensive, although you can finish your studies faster. Also, you can work there for 20 hours a week. Concerns? I guess I'll miss the cheaper prices. England is expensive, so I will miss shopping in the markets. I will probably miss the variety of food that I can get here in China. I think it will be a good learning experience for me, and I think I will be more independent when I come back. I think it will also be easier to find a job.
Thanks. And have you ever travelled there?
Not yet.
What will you take with you to England?
Probably a lot of clothes and Chinese books.
Lesson 11. Plans and future. Okay, you've been telling me about your future plan, and now I'd like to ask you a few general questions related to this topic.
Okay, sure.
First, do people's plans usually succeed or do they fail?
They usually fail, in my opinion, especially short-term plans. People change their ideas and their goals. I think it's still good to have plans. We just have to be flexible with them. For example, I used to dream about being an actor. I wanted to study it in university. Now I realise it is not a suitable job for me.
You said it's still good to have plans. Why?
Because then you have some goals. When people make plans, they think of what they need to do. They're motivated. Also, we must have dreams in life. Without dreams, life would be boring.
Do you believe in being able to predict the future?
I think some people can. I know a friend who could predict a lot of things. He seemed to have a lot of special power. He even predicted the World Cup final. But I don't think he can do that all the time. I think people who predict the future are just lucky. The future is a mystery. Many things I have predicted didn't come true.
What do you predict China will be like in the next 20 years?
I'm not sure. You know, the future of China is not easy to predict. I think it will be strong and modern. I'm very optimistic. I think China will continue to progress. There will be no more major problems. I think the problems will be solved. China will also be a powerful country. People's lives will be better and people will be happier.
Let's talk about overseas life. Do you think that going overseas is worth all the cost and effort?
Yes, because when you graduate, you can have a better future. For example, if you want a job, you can get a much higher salary with a degree from Australia or England. You also will know more about other cultures. You can learn to adapt to different situations. Your English will also improve. Probably, when I get back, I will be fluent in English. Also, when you get back to your country, you will appreciate it more. The things you missed while overseas will be more important to you.
Do you think in the future more people from China will go overseas to study?
I think in the future fewer people will go overseas to study. I think there will be more opportunities to study here in China. Most people want to go overseas because they think they can get a better job. That is true right now, but in the future, many companies will think getting your education in China is better. The universities will improve, and the education will be more suitable for living in China. Also, there will be more foreign universities offering distance learning courses, so we don't have to go overseas to study.
Thank you, and that's the end of the interview. Unit 5. Language. Lesson 12. English is getting more popular.
Okay, let's talk for a while about the English language. In your hometown, is English a popular language to study?
Yes, it's quite popular, especially with university students. A lot of students study it to get a better job or to go overseas to study. Also, my hometown is quite modern. Many people use English in doing business.
How long have you been studying English?
I've been studying English for 9 years. Well, we start in middle school and I have studied it for 2 years in university.
What do you find most difficult about studying a foreign language like English?
I think remembering vocabulary is most difficult. When I speak English, I often can't remember the words. I think it takes a lot of practice.
What do you think is the best way to study English?
I think you should use it a lot. Practice makes perfect. When you have a chance, you should try to use it. I also think listening to cassettes is very helpful. Lesson 13. English learning experience.
Describe your English learning experience. You should say where and when you started learning it, what classes you have had, what ways you prefer to study English. Okay, now, this is a card that contains a topic, and I would like you to speak for 1 to 2 minutes on the subject on the card. You can have 1 minute to prepare. Here is a pen and paper, and you can make notes if you wish. You may start preparing now.
Thank you.
Your time is up. Remember, you have 1 to 2 minutes to speak. And don't worry if I stop you from going over.
Okay, well, I started studying when I was quite young. My father taught me the ABCs, and I learned a lot of words from my mother. When I had my first English class in middle school, I already knew a lot of English. I was better than most of my classmates. I have to thank my mother and father for that. I think the way I studied it in school was different than how my father and mother taught me. In school I learned a lot of grammar rules. We did a lot of translation from Chinese to English. I think it was quite boring. So I began to hate English. I had to learn a lot of vocabulary. I became very tired of it. Later, when I started studying it at language schools and universities, it became more fun. I liked it again. I also became friends with a foreigner from Australia. He was my teacher for oral English. I learned a lot from him and I became more confident. I prefer to study it by practicing it. I don't like to memorize a lot of words. I like just using it. I also like learning it by finding interesting things to read and listen to. A good self-study textbook is useful, but it should be interesting and useful. I also think listening is very important. In China, we do a lot of reading but not much listening. so I think it's important to get used to the sound of English before you even try to speak it a lot.
Thanks. Do your mother and father speak quite well?
My father uses it at work. My mother just knows it but never uses it.
Do you still contact your Australian friend?
He went back to Australia last year. Lesson 14. English is key to our careers.
Right. You have been talking about your English experience, and now I'd like to ask a few general questions related to the topic of English. Is English language learning becoming more and more popular everywhere in China?
Yes, I have a friend from Dalian who told me that Dalian is crazy about English. A lot of people spend a lot of money just learning it. There are lots of English corners and language schools all over China, and a lot of people buy textbooks and magazines. I know a lot of people travel to big cities like Beijing to learn English. English is popular everywhere in China, but in some places it is more popular than others.
Why is it so popular?
Well, the biggest reason is that we are becoming a more open-minded country. We love things from different parts of the world. We see a lot of foreigners coming to China. We like to learn from them, as we are curious. Also, we are more valuable if we learn English. If you learn a foreign language, you will have more opportunities. Your mind will be more open. You can also enjoy more books and films.
What are the main differences between Chinese and English?
Well, Chinese has different tones. You know, in Mandarin there are only 4 tones, and in Cantonese there are 8. I think the pronunciation of English has different rhythm and different intonation. I find English grammar is different. You have to know more rules.
Do you think English will become the only world language one day?
No. I think people will still speak many different languages. I think it will become a language that all people can speak. I think English will be used as a common language. For example, I've heard that when people from Japan and China speak together, they use English. But I think most people will still use the language that is part of their culture. Language is an important part of culture. I don't think most Chinese would give up their language.
What do you think of the way English is taught in middle school?
I think it does a good job teaching us how to read. Also, our grammar knowledge is quite good. But for listening, speaking and writing, it is quite poor. Our teachers just do not have enough skills in these areas. I think it's because these are hard to practice. You can find lots to read, but not much to listen to.
Thank you. And that's the end of the interview.
Unit 6. Free time and travel. Lesson 15. In my spare time, I just relax.
What do you do in your spare time?
Oh well, I don't have much spare time now. I'm always so busy, so in my spare time I usually just relax.
What kinds of activities do you like doing besides relaxing?
I enjoy playing football. I have a few friends who I like playing football with near my house. Whenever I have free time, I like playing with them.
Let's talk about entertainment for a bit. What kind of books or TV programs do you most enjoy?
Personally, I hate TV. I don't watch TV unless there's a good sports event like the World Cup. But I love reading.
What do you like to read in your spare time?
I like fiction. I like stories about real lives and lives in the past. I feel these stories are very interesting. I can also gain a lot of knowledge.
Where do you read these books?
At home, I try to read something just before I go to bed.
Do you ever discuss the books you read with others?
No. The people I know lead practical lives. They are very busy. They do not want to listen to me talk about a book because they do not have time to read.
Thanks. Now, could you just tell me a bit about...
Lesson 16. My favourite hobby is a joke telling.
Describe a hobby you enjoy. You should say what the hobby is, what special skills you need, why you like it. Okay, now, this is a card that contains a topic, and I would like you to speak for 1 to 2 minutes on the subject on the card. You can have 1 minute to prepare. Here is a pen and paper, and now you can make notes if you wish. You may start preparing now. Okay, a minute is up, and you may now start. Don't forget, you'll be speaking for up to 2 minutes, and don't worry if I stop you if you go over.
My hobby is really about telling jokes. Some people don't think it's a hobby, but I think it is. I try to collect as many jokes as I can. I got started with it when I worked as a computer teacher. Every day I would bring in a joke to tell the students. I would tell them at the beginning of the class, so they would come on time.
What skills does this hobby need?
You need to do a lot of reading and listening to jokes. I used to get some of my jokes from books. Sometimes I would get them from other people. You also need to tell jokes whenever you can. The best part of a joke is the way you tell it. You have to be a good speaker. You also have to have a good memory because jokes are easy to forget. You need to tell them again and again. You should always try to say them again in a different way. I also think you have to change the joke for different situations. Why do I like this hobby? I think it makes my life more fun. I can also be a better speaker. Sometimes I can tell people serious things by using jokes. I think jokes are a good way to relax people.
Thanks. Do you know any English jokes?
Not very many, no.
Do your friends like your jokes?
No. They hate them. But I won't stop telling them. Lesson 17. Hobbies make people happy.
Okay, thanks. You've been talking about your favourite hobby, and now I'd like to ask you a few more questions about general issues related to the topic of hobbies. First, could you tell me about spare time in China? Do you think people have as much spare time as they used to?
No. People are busier than they used to be. I think many people do not have time. For example, my father used to play ping pong with his friends. Now he just stays home because he feels too tired. This is the same for many people. Many people work late and some people even work on Sundays. Of course we make more money, but we have no time to enjoy it.
Do you think companies should give workers more holidays?
I think the holidays are no problem. It's just that some companies do not follow the rules. They want workers to work more. If they don't, they could lose their jobs. I think we need to start making sure everyone gets a day off. A lot of people cannot refuse to work late. They are afraid of losing their jobs. That should not happen.
Do you think hobbies are good for people?
Yes. They give people something to do. They are fun and they make people happy. Some hobbies need skills. Hobbies make our lives better. For example, my mother likes calligraphy. She can make some beautiful paintings. It makes her happy. Some people who are good at their hobbies can make money. For example, my father used to collect antiques. Last year he sold them and made a lot of money.
Do Chinese people like travelling more in their free time?
Yes, it's been getting more popular to travel. A lot of people like to travel independently. Some of my friends travelled all around China last year. They went by car and visited many beautiful places. They said they had no problems.
Do you think you need to spend a lot of money to have a good trip?
No, you don't need too much money. Most of the beautiful places you can see for free. You need some money, but I think you shouldn't spend too much. When you are travelling, most things are overpriced. I never go on tours. They are a waste of money. I like just travelling and making my own choices. That is more interesting to me.
You said that you enjoy listening to music. Do you think music is important for people to listen to in their spare time?
Yes. Music helps to relax people. It also makes us calmer. Music is a kind of communication. If we listen to a lot of music, we can become more clever. We can learn more about the way people feel. Sometimes it is a good way to release our stress.
Thanks. And that's the end of the interview.
Unit 7. Food and Restaurant. Lesson 18. People like spicy dishes. Okay, why don't we talk about food for a while? Can I ask you what sorts of dishes people like in your hometown?
Well, I come from the Hunan province. People from there like very spicy dishes. So the favourite dishes usually have a lot of chilies.
Why do most people like this type of food?
Well, the weather in Hunan province is very hot and humid. People eat spicy food to get rid of the humidity.
How about restaurants in your hometown? Are there many?
There are hundreds of restaurants, and almost all of them sell cheap and delicious food. Eating in Hunan restaurants is not expensive, and it's also good food.
Do people often eat out in your hometown, or do they cook at home?
They usually cook at home.
Why?
Well, many people living in Changsha can't afford to eat out so often. The restaurants are cheap, but if you go to them every day, it costs a lot of money.
One last question. What sorts of restaurants do you like going to?
I like restaurants with good food, lots of variety and good service. It should also be clean. I don't really like big restaurants. Smaller restaurants are often kinder to customers and not so expensive. Sometimes you will find in some of the really big restaurants, the waiters and waitresses are so busy that they have no time to serve you.
Lesson 19. A dish I'd like to eat. Describe a type of dish you like. You should say what the dish is, what is in the dish, why you like it so much. Right now, I'd like you to now talk about a topic from 1 to 2 minutes, and I'll give you a minute to prepare what you'd like to say. Do you understand me so far?
Yes, no problem.
Okay, good. Now you may take notes if you wish, so here is a pencil and some paper. I want you to talk about your favourite dish or food. Do you understand?
Yes.
Good. And if everything's clear so far, then I'll let you start.
Okay, so I've been asked to speak about my favourite dish. Well, that's difficult because I like so many. But I think my favourite is a dish called gongbao jiding. I eat this dish quite often, at least once or twice each month. It's a dish from Sichuan, but everyone in China eats it. It's very popular. It has chicken, peanuts, and lots of chilies. The chicken pieces are small and they're fried. The sauce is spicy. It has a lot of peanuts in it. The peanuts are quite hard, so this makes the dish both soft and crunchy. Different restaurants cook it in different ways. The best place to get it is in Sichuan. I think the reason I like it is because first I like chicken a lot. The chicken is usually quite soft. The other thing I like is that it has a strong flavour. It is not too strong, but it is delicious. The other thing I like is that this dish is not very expensive. It is a popular dish, so people keep the price low. I think it's a dish I will miss when I go overseas.
Do they serve this dish in Beijing?
Oh, yes. Almost every restaurant has it.
Can you make it?
I've tried to, and it tasted terrible. It's not as easy as what you might think.
Lesson 20. Diets are changing.
Well, let's talk about the subject of food for a minute. What's the main food of China?
I think rice is the staple food. But this is different in different parts of China. For example, people in the north perhaps eat more noodles and buns than in the south.
Has the diet or food that people eat in China been changing?
Yes. Many people have changed their eating habits. Young people especially. We are beginning to eat a lot more food from other countries. There are fast food restaurants everywhere in the bigger cities. It seems people like to eat food that is quick to prepare. Snack places are quite popular. I also think eating on the street is not as common. People prefer going into restaurants. At home you're finding people starting to eat more meat in their diet. They are cooking dishes that they used to usually only eat in restaurants.
How do you feel about fast food restaurants?
I don't like them that much, but they are very popular. Young people especially like them. They are convenient. You don't have to wait so long for your food. Also, they are clean. But I think the food is very unhealthy. There is too much fat. For example, French fries are fried in animal oil. Also, they are expensive.
How is Chinese food different from other countries?
I don't know that much about the kinds of dishes people in other countries like to eat. I know with Chinese cooking, vegetables are fried. Other countries like vegetables to be either steamed or boiled. Chinese people like to chop up their meat and fry it, but I know a lot of Westerners like to roast their meat. I think Chinese food is healthier. We use more vegetables and rice, which is good for you.
What do you think about science in food? Do you think it's okay if your food is not natural? For example, if chickens receive certain chemicals to help them grow?
I don't like the idea. If we put chemicals on plants or in meat to help it grow, it's bad. It could be dangerous. For example, our body may get a disease from it. Eating naturally is best. If I know that my food has some special chemicals, I won't eat it. I think we should be told if our food is not natural. Unit 8. Family and Friends. Lesson 21. My parents and friends.
Right. I'd just like to ask you a few questions about your family. Do you have a large or small family?
It's small. There are just 3 people, my parents and I. You know, in China we have the one-child policy, so I have no brothers and sisters. My parents are both working in the same company. They are both salespeople.
What do you and your parents like to do when you are all together?
Usually we turn on the TV and watch TV together. At dinner we talk about a lot of different topics. I talk about my friends and family. I often help with the cleaning around the house. On the weekends we do our own things, but sometimes we do some shopping together.
How often do you and your friends go out together?
It's hard to say because we usually get together during holidays or on Sundays.
Okay. What do you and your friends usually do when you are together?
Well, I will usually meet them in some restaurant before a football game or before some other type of entertainment.
Right. Are your friends fairly similar to you, or are they different?
You know, what's funny is that most of my friends are quite different from me. I am quite quiet and relaxed, but not my friends. They like to speak very loudly, but I like to speak softly. Lesson 22. My best friend.
Describe your best friend. You should say, how you became friends, what you do together, why you are good friends. Right, now, I want you to speak on a topic for 1 to 2 minutes, and I'll give you a minute to prepare your talk. You can take notes if you wish, so here is a pencil and some paper. Right, I'll let you start. I want you to talk about your best friend. Do you understand?
Yes.
Good. Then I'll let you begin preparing. Right, your time is up. Remember, you have up to 2 minutes, and don't worry if I stop you from going over. You may begin.
Well, I have many friends. My best friend is a boy I met at university. He's very clever. I first met him in my economics class. Now he is a marketing major. He didn't like to study just like me. He was always sleeping in class, but he could still do very well on his tests. He was top of the class in all his subjects. What do we do together? We play basketball. He was not good at basketball, but he didn't care. He'd just laugh while he was playing it. He was good at computer games. He could play them all day long. I often joined him, but he would always win. I think the reason we're such good friends is that we trust each other. I never worry about telling him things. I can tell him anything. He never lies to me. Also, we have a lot in common. The films he likes, I also like. I also like the same music that he likes. He also has a good sense of humour. Sometimes when we are together, we just laugh and laugh.
Thanks. And what's his aim in life? I mean, for a career?
Probably he'll be a professor.
Is he still in university?
Yes, he will graduate next year just like me. Lesson 23. Friends and Friendships.
Thank you. I'd like now to discuss a few more general issues related to the topic of friendship that you've been discussing. How do Chinese usually make friends?
There are so many different ways to make friends. In China, one popular way is to make friends with the people in your class. We also often talk to people on the bus or in a library. I think the best way is that your friend introduces you to someone. A lot of people are also making friends with people at internet cafes and on the internet.
Okay, what do you think about making friends on the internet? Do you think it's a good way?
I think it's okay. You can get to know people without going anywhere. You can make friends with people from all over the world. For example, I went on the ICQ and made a friend from Canada. You have to make sure the person you are chatting with is serious. Sometimes they just lie. Still, I think it's interesting.
Right. Do you think friendship is important for people to be happy?
Without friends, life is boring. We can't learn about people. Friends can help you in many ways. If you have trouble, they can help you. Once a friend lent me 100 yen when my wallet was stolen. Also, without friends, how can we do sports or play cards?
Right. Do you think it is becoming more difficult to make friends?
Yes, because there is so much competition. People don't trust each other as much. For example, in school, many people do not want to study together or help each other. Also, many people don't go out to cinemas or special shows anymore. We can just watch them on TV. I know the internet gives us more opportunities to make friends, but I still think it is more difficult than before.
Okay, that's the end of the interview.
Unit 9. Wildlife and Environment. Lesson 24. Landscape. What kind of landscape does your hometown have?
My hometown is surrounded by limestone mountains. It is famous for its scenery. It is also on the bank of the Lee River. There are hills and caves not far from where I live.
Can you find animals there?
I think you can find quite a few different animals. I know there are a few monkeys and deer. I'm not really sure how many there are.
Right. How popular is it for people to keep pets in your hometown?
Many people are doing that now. It is quite expensive to get the license. I still see many people with dogs. They like the small Peking dogs.
I see. Do you have a pet?
No, I don't have a pet.
Why not? Would you like to have a pet?
I think a pet would be quite troublesome. I have kept fish before, and they all died. I wouldn't want a dog, because I think it's a lot of work to take care of one.
Lesson 25. My favorite animal. Describe your favorite animal. You should say what the animal is and how you know about it. What you know about it. Why you like this animal so much. Right. So I'd like now to give you a topic to present for 1 to 2 minutes. I will also give you a minute to think about what you want to say in this presentation. If you think it will help, I will give you a pencil and paper to take notes if you wish. Do you understand so far?
Yes, I do.
Good. Your topic then is about your favorite animal. So I'll give it to you to look over and start your preparation time of a minute right now. Okay, your time is up. Remember, you have up to 2 minutes. And don't worry if I come in after that time with a couple of questions. You may begin now.
Okay, well, I think my favourite animal has to be the horse. I have ridden a horse before in the Chongqing area. My uncle has 4 horses. He is training these horses so that they can be raced one day. He taught me how to ride one. A horse is beautiful and quite intelligent. It will obey you if you understand it. If you do not understand a horse, it will never do what you want. Horses are hard-working animals. They are not lazy animals like cows. They also do not eat as much as cows. I think they are usually quite clean. They eat hay and some grass, but they don't seem to eat too much, not like pigs. My uncle said you have to keep good care of a horse. They will behave well if you treat them properly. I think I like the horse because I think it's a graceful animal. It moves very smoothly. It also is hard-working, so I think it's just like our country, hard-working and humble. I also love riding horses. I'm not good at riding them, but one day, if I hope I can be. I hope I can take a horse into the mountains. So, for me, a horse is most beautiful and fun.
Thanks. How often have you gone horseback riding?
I think about 4 times.
And have you ever fallen off one?
No, but I came close once.
Lesson 26. The environment is a big concern. Okay, you've been telling me about your favourite animal, and I'd just like to ask you a few more questions of a general nature related to the topic of wildlife.
Sure.
Would you say that the animal population in China is increasing or decreasing?
Well, it depends. Domestic animals like chicken and pigs are increasing, but wild animals are decreasing. Wildlife in China has been decreasing for years now.
What do you think are some reasons for this happening?
There are many reasons, actually. The first is because of hunting. We eat too many wild animals in our diet. Also, too much land has been destroyed to build houses or for farms. Logging also causes many problems. Animals are just victims of human development.
Have any actions been taken to preserve wildlife?
Oh, yes. I believe the government has created more protected areas. Our laws are now stronger. There are also stricter punishments, but we need to enforce them better. We need more people to look after these parks.
Do you feel positive that there will be improvements in the future?
Oh, yes. I understand more parks will be created. I'm hopeful that some animals, like the panda, will one day have a big population. Also, I think the police in these places will get better at catching hunters.
Turning to the topic of the environment, what do you think are the main problems that face China with regards to the environment?
Definitely the 2 main ones are air pollution and land use. I think we have developed too fast. Too many factories and companies only care about money. We should try to create stricter laws. More people should pay attention to the problem. For example, I still see many people throwing garbage on the ground. We need to appreciate our environment more.
Can a country develop without destroying the environment?
Yes, but it takes technology. Also, we must have strict laws. There are many countries that are well developed, but protect their environment. Look at Sweden and Norway. I think it is possible. We just have to try harder.
Thank you. And that's the end of the interview. Unit 10. Important events. Lesson 27. Spring Festival. Right, so what are some of the festivals celebrated in your country?
Well, there is Spring Festival. That is the biggest one. It is held in late January or early February. It depends on the lunar calendar. We also have Mid-Autumn Festival, which is either in September or October. Again, this depends on the lunar calendar. It takes place on the 15th day of the 8th month.
Which is your favourite?
Spring Festival. The holiday goes on for 15 days. It gives many people a chance to see their families again. Also, it's a time just to relax and have a good time.
How do people celebrate it?
People celebrate it by decorating their houses. We also get together, have a big dinner, and give red packets of money to younger people. As for the dinner, we often eat fish and dumplings. We often watch the special performances on TV. Sometimes the older people play cards or mahjong. On the second day, we often go around and visit friends.
What do people do outside of the home?
Another way to celebrate Spring Festival is by dressing up in new clothes. We also often go out and attend what we call Miao Hui, which are simply outdoor carnivals. They sell a lot of things, and they hold a few events like Beijing Opera.
Lesson 28. A happy day in my life. Describe a happy experience. You should say when it happened, what happened, how you felt.
The happiest time of my life was last year when I was accepted into Tsinghua University. I had just finished my exams and I was watching TV in the living room. I really thought I had not passed. At the time I wrote my exams, I wasn't feeling well. I had caught a cold. I was quite depressed and decided to forget it. Then my mother came in with the mail. I told my mother I didn't want to look at the letter, so she opened it up herself. She told me I had passed and had been accepted, but I didn't believe her. She pretended to hide her joy while I pretended to hide my tears. The next day, I phoned all my friends. I felt happy because I had tried very hard. I also knew that my life would be better. If you're accepted into Tsinghua, you can have more opportunities. I also liked the feeling of making my mother happy. Perhaps that was the greatest feeling for me. I will never forget it.
Thanks. Did you have a party?
No, but my mother took me out for dinner.
Lesson 29. Festivals are important. Thanks, you've been talking about the Spring Festival, and now I'd like to ask you a few more questions on some general topics related to what you've been saying. First, is the festival that you've been describing celebrated in much the same way throughout the country?
No, it is celebrated differently from place to place. I mean, some things are the same, like the red packets and the get-togethers, but other things, like the food and the outdoor festivals, are much different. Also, in many rural places, it is okay to set off firecrackers, so it may be a lot noisier outside of the city.
Has the way in which it is celebrated changed over the years?
Not really too much, except the biggest change has been with the firecrackers in the major cities. That makes it less exciting. More people are going out to eat than they used to.
Are festivals important for the country?
Yes, I think they are. They give people a chance to just relax. Many people need this time to relax. They give people some time to shop, which is good for the economy. I also think it's good for our culture. We feel proud of who we are.
What do you think about Chinese people celebrating Western holidays?
I think it's great. It makes our lives more interesting. We can enjoy a happy time giving presents or following the customs. I know that many of my friends who work for foreign-owned companies are given holidays during this time. They use the time off to have a good time with their families.
Thank you, and that's the end of the interview. Unit 11. Transportation and Traffic. Lesson 30. I usually go by bus. Okay, let's turn to the topic of transportation. How do you usually get around in your hometown?
I usually go by bus. I am a student, so I use my monthly bus pass. I ride it every day. I do ride a bicycle, but not often.
Why?
Well, in my hometown, there are lots of hills, and so it's difficult to ride a bicycle. We also have no subway, so the only other choice is by car. But a car is expensive, and sometimes not very convenient.
How is the bus system in your hometown?
It's okay. It has been improved, so now buses aren't so crowded. Buses are also more comfortable now.
How has transportation changed in the last few years?
Well, I think the biggest change has been cars. There are a lot more cars on the road and fewer bicycles. This means that the roads are more crowded. There are also more taxis, since people have more money now.
Lesson 31. My favourite transportation. Describe which form of transportation is your favourite. You should say what the transportation is, when you use it, why you use it. Right, now I'd like you to talk about a topic for 1 to 2 minutes, and I'll give you a minute to prepare. You may make notes if you wish, and in front of you is some paper and a pencil which you can use. The topic I want you to talk about regarding to your favourite form of transportation. Do you understand so far?
Yes.
Good. Then I'll give you the card and you can start your preparation.
Thank you.
Right. Your time is up and you may begin. Remember, you have 1 to 2 minutes to speak, and don't worry if I stop you in case you go over 2 minutes.
Thank you. The transportation I would choose as my favourite would be a bicycle. I use it almost every day. I use it to go from my dormitory to go shopping. Also, I sometimes meet with my friends and go to the parks and other places. I am quite fast on the bicycle, and I think I ride one quite well. I think the main reason I like using a bicycle is that it's convenient. Bicycles are easy to park. A car is difficult to park. A bicycle is also much cheaper than other kinds of transportations. I don't need to spend much money on one. I only need to pay for repairs. A bicycle also gives me good exercise. I can stay in shape riding one. I don't have to go jogging in the morning. Of course, you need to be careful when you ride one. You have to concentrate on the other cyclists and the cars. Also, you must be careful about thieves. Bicycles often get stolen. You have to lock one up well. Beijing's roads are fairly flat, so I think it's quite easy to ride one. I do take the bus here once in a while, but for now, I think I can get to places just as quickly on a bicycle.
Do you go long-distance riding?
Yes, but not often.
What colour is your bicycle?
It's red and black.
Lesson 32. The traffic jams are terrible. OK, you've been talking about your favourite transportation, and now I'd like to discuss a few more general topics that relate to what you've been talking about. First, can you tell me a bit about the traffic situation in most big cities in China?
Well, I just know about Beijing. I know there are more and more cars. I think the roads are not wide enough, so we often have traffic jams. There are not enough flyovers, so people have to use narrow side lanes as exits. Also, many people do not follow the traffic rules, so that also slows down the traffic.
How do you predict the traffic will be in the next 20 years?
That's difficult to say. It could be better or much worse. It depends on our planning. If we get more and more cars, then it could get a lot worse. The problem is that you just can't keep building more roads and making the roads wider, because that only makes people want to buy more cars.
What do you think should be done about the traffic situation?
First, we should make it more expensive to drive cars. I think it needs to be more expensive, because if it's too easy to get a car, then everyone will have one. Some roads should be only for pedestrians. Also, I think we should develop our public transportation better. If public transportation could be as comfortable as a car, then many people would choose it instead.
Unit 12. Homes and Houses. Lesson 33. My apartment is on the first floor.
Okay, let me ask you a few questions about your home. What kind of home is it?
My home is a 3-bedroom flat located just outside of Jinan, near the downtown area. It's on the first floor.
Uh-huh. What are the advantages and disadvantages of living on that floor?
Well, since it's on the ground floor, we don't have to climb any stairs or take the lift. We don't have to worry about anyone falling. Also, the balcony can take you right outside. The disadvantage is that it's noisier. You'll also have no view from the top.
Right. What do you think are the good things about your accommodation? And what are some things you would like to see improved?
Our flat has a lot of space. We have 110 square meters. It's quite comfortable and clean. Most of the inside facilities are quite new. The bad thing is that there should be more outside facilities around the buildings, like a park or even a better playground for the children.
Okay. What would you prefer to live in, a house or a flat?
I'd prefer to live in a house. It's bigger and you can have more privacy. You can also have a yard with a garden. That's something I dream about.
Thank you.
Lesson 34. My home.
Describe your current home. You should say what kind of home it is. What is inside your home? Whether you like it or not. Right. Now I'd like you to talk about a topic for 1 to 2 minutes. and I'll give you a minute to prepare what you'd like to say. You may take notes if you wish, so here's a pencil and some paper. And if everything is clear so far, then I'll let you start. I want you to talk about your current home. Do you understand?
Yes.
Good. Then I'll let you begin preparing. Right, then, your time is up. Remember, you have up to 2 minutes, and don't worry if I stop you from going over. You may begin.
Okay. My flat is a 3-bedroom flat in the south of Chengdu, near a major crossing. It is located on the 4th floor. It is situated in what we call a residential development area, and I guess you could call it fairly luxurious. I live there with my parents. We've lived there for 6 years. It is a private house. Before we moved there, we used to live in a flat brick house, what we Chinese call a pingfang. It's not huge, but it's comfortable. It's nicely furnished with wallpaper and a wooden floor. We also have a balcony, but we never really use it much since all our clothes are washed and dried in the washing machine. The biggest room is the living room, of course, and it has a sofa, 3 chairs and a TV. It is in a convenient neighbourhood, with 2 grocery stores and a couple of restaurants. There is also a playground nearby. I feel quite comfortable, and although I wish it were a bit larger, I think it's a place where I feel secure.
Thanks. Do you know your neighbours?
No, because we've only lived there for a short while.
Is there a restaurant nearby?
Yes, there's one very close by. Lesson 35. The housing situation in China.
Thanks. Now I'd like to ask you a few more questions of a general nature related to the topic of housing. Do you think the housing situation has generally improved for most Chinese?
Yes, the housing is better now. There are also a lot more private housing. Flats are bigger now and there are more places for people to take their children. My father used to live in a flat brick house. He had to share the washroom and the electrical power was limited. So I think living conditions are much better.
How do you predict housing will change in the future?
I think apartment buildings will be higher, and we'll be living in buildings as high as 30 floors. It has to happen. We can't just squeeze people into the space we have.
Do you think it will continue to improve for most people?
Yes. People will have more freedom to live where they want. Also, newer housing will be built. Older housing will be improved. I'm quite optimistic housing will improve even more.
What future problems do you foresee which might be quite challenging?
I think private developers have to be regulated. Some of them build buildings too fast. They sometimes break promises. I think we have to control them better. I also think we need to find more housing for people from outside of Beijing, like construction workers.
One more question. How do you feel about neighbourhoods? Do you think that people are still as friendly to each other as they used to be?
People do not talk to each other as much as they used to. I guess many people are too busy. There was an organised dance at our residence last month. We met people in our building that we'd never seen before. I think it's a wonderful idea, but some people have no time to go to it.